Hey everybody, it's Chuck with the Backyard Backpacking video series. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most important parts of any successful wilderness outing, which is how to make a fire. So, before we get started, one caveat: you should, before you go into any backcountry planning to start a fire, know any fire rules and regulations pertaining to that area. A hefty fine or the destruction of a fragile ecosystem are a really good way to end a backpacking trip on a low note. Let's dive right in. So the first thing we want to consider when we're building a fire is what our fuel source is going to be. Every fire needs three things: heat, oxygen, and fuel. Nature provides the oxygen, your lighting device will provide the heat. It's going to be up to you to select the proper fuel. So there's a couple classes of fuel that we need to work with in order to have a successful fire. Tinder is the really small stuff that's actually going to get your fire lit. In our case, we like to use common household item, dryer lint. Believe it or not, this stuff is an excellent way to get a fire started. So, the problem with tinder is that it lights quickly but doesn't always hold its heat or its flame for very long. And like tinder on the internet, this often results in a man stammering and swearing this is the first time it's ever happened to him. So, we are going to start with a nice big fluffy pile of dryer lint. We're going to make a little nest for it on the floor of our fire. I also like to use a little bit of paper towel to help spread the flame once we've got it lit for the first time, because fires can be finicky. So what I like to do is sort of roll them into a loose tube like this, and then these can be stuck around the base of your fire to help spread the flame to all parts of your fuel. All right, next up after tinder, we've got our kindling. Kindling is the little stuff that's going to catch easy, catch quick, and it's going to form the base of your fire. So there are a couple different ways to structure your kindling in order to successfully get your fire lit and stay lit. Some of these approaches are the teepee, the log cabin, and the lean-to. I'm personally a fan of the lean-to, so that's how we're going to build our kindling structure today. Let's get our lean-to built. I'm going to take one of my bigger pieces of fuel to form the base for this. You can go as big as you want, really. And I'm going to lay that next to my tinder. I'm going to take some of the smaller pieces of my kindling, just snap those up like that, and I'm going to start laying them diagonally across my pile of tinder. And we don't want to layer these too tightly, because like we said before, every fire needs oxygen in order to burn, and you can suffocate a fire very quickly by squeezing your fuel in too tight. So I'm just going to rest those on there like that. So we've got sort of an angled lean-to of our very basic stuff here. So we have our smallest kindling laid on top of our tinder in our nice lean-to shape. So next we want to make sure we have some slightly bigger pieces of kindling handy so that we're ready. Once the fire catches, we're ready to start feeding it. So I've already separated out my bundles, and I'm going to keep this close to me on the side. You can also keep feeding with your smaller kindling as you go too, if the fire is a little more hesitant to start. Everyone's a little different. I'm going to come back to my old friend, the paper towel, to help spread this around. I'm going to bring this one onto either side of my lean-to here. Just tuck that right in. I've got my supplies at the ready. I've got my structure set up. I'm ready to start this fire. So, many people like to use a lighter. If you're somebody who's really concerned about pack weight in your backpack, you can use one of these little flip books of matches. The great part about these, if you're a real ounce junkie, is that once you use some of the matches, you can also tear off pieces of the book and keep saving weight. Those little pieces of the book can also be used as tinder for your fire. So let's start with matches today too. So I'm going to hold my flame to my tinder, kind of move it around a little bit without letting it burn my hand. So once we've got that going, we can start adding some smaller pieces of kindling onto here. So those are ready to catch. All right, here's where many people lose it, because they start to see a flame, they think they're ready to go, and they start going crazy and piling wood on top of it. And again, they suffocate it far too quickly. It's a nice slow build when you're making a fire. So I'm just going to add little pieces onto here one by one. slowly so that it stays lit for as long as possible before starting to catch the bigger stuff. Once that happens, I can start adding on the slightly larger pieces. And we've had some rain here in Seattle, so these are pretty damp. Not ideal for starting a fire. It's going to give you a lot of smoke. But if they stay hot long enough, they will catch. You'll notice I'm starting to build my fire in an orderly structure as well. That's the best way to keep it lit, keep it going. Then once I've done all that, I'm ready to start adding my bigger stuff on. This one, again, not an ideal piece because it's pretty rotten, but it'll do the trick, again, if you can keep it hot and dry long enough. Last but not least, we need to successfully put out our fire. So always have your water source nearby and ready to roll so that you can put out this beautiful fire once you're done with it. You really want to drown the embers so that there's no possible way for them to spark up again. Fires can be tricky like that. So we suggest taking an unburned piece of wood, spreading around your fire starting materials, and then really searching through the mess for any embers that might still be glowing. Once you're confident that none of your embers are glowing, you've drowned the fire and you're ready to move on from your campsite. This has been the Backyard Backpacking video series. Thanks for watching.
Never gonna slow down, let it go, make my body go, take our bodies higher and higher.